Okay, so I am in the process of doing a lot of work tonight on the channel and doing some writing too. I'm probably going to write and then probably fall asleep with my laptop in my lap because I got so much stuff I got to catch up on. And I've gotten around to reading my emails, which sadly I don't take as much time to do, but I love it when on occasion I do get an email from someone who has an interesting question that I want to take on myself. And I don't often get to do vlogs here on the Micah and the Hat Man channel, mostly because I like the content on this channel to be Micah and the Hat Man, not just me bloviating, you know. But aside from the game night streams. But, you know, I like having the long form content and stuff like that. And I got an email from a more recent subscriber who she had a question for me. So let me read her email real quick. She says, "Hi there, Micah. I'm not really sure how often you check this email or if you use it for anything other than business-related reasons. I'm not an active participant in the YouTube community outside of watching content. I don't have an account. I hope emailing you is okay. My name is..." I won't mention her name because she asked not to, and I'm 26. Is that an advertisement telling me your age? No, I'm just kidding. "I came across your channel going down the rabbit hole, catching up with the whole that guy with the glasses drama. Yeah, I know, sorry. No worries. Came to really enjoy your content separate from that. We also have reasonably similar views politically. Nice to see a fellow metalhead as well. I watched your video today about your thoughts on being a Christian and found it extremely well articulated and enlightening. I was raised Roman Catholic myself, but now consider myself a polytheist in the Norse Germanic influence. I, however, harbor no bad blood towards my former faith and never really have. It just wasn't my calling. I guess as a viewer, I'm really intrigued to hear your thoughts on polytheism, in general, not just Norse, especially from the context of as a practicing Christian. Even if you don't agree with my faith or its beliefs, that's fine. I just really would love to hear your thoughts because I think you're very intelligent and engaging." Now I'm wondering if you're hitting on me, lady. No, I'm just kidding. But no, this is a very, and just be well and hear back soon. Well, thank you for that. And let me go ahead and just kind of put my thoughts together. So I've done videos about, you know, why I'm not a young earth creationist, or video, I should say, and about why I don't believe other things. And I think this is going to be an interesting one because when it comes to why I'm a Christian, there's a couple of different things that I go to in regards to it. First is that when I was an atheist for a short time of my life, very short, like just a few years, I was a nihilist. I found myself constantly testing to see whether or not God was there. I would make these accusations and I would say these stupid things and it would be silly. And then as time has gone on, you know, I came back to the faith some years ago, probably, let's see, I'm 33 now, so this would have been about 15 years ago. I came back and to the faith and began to study more. Went to college for theological and philosophical study, and with the idea of possibly becoming a preacher someday. And one thing that I started doing was kind of, in my own time, reading and comparing Christ to other gods. And what I found, and one of the main reasons that I believe why I believe, is twofold. And I'm not going to make a purely spiritual argument. I'm just going to talk about my interactions with the Bible itself. And the first thing that I realized is that God is not a God of the gaps. He does not exist to fill in all of the things that we don't understand right now. In fact, I think that the interesting thing that I find about God is that the more I have read about scientific pursuit, the more I read philosophy, the more I look into different elements of the world itself, and I learn more about people, and I learn and experience more of life, what I find is that he is ever more present in that. In that he is not there to explain the things I don't understand. He is there to help me gain more understanding about the world around me. Because the more, and it kind of ties into number two, is the narrative of the Bible, when I read through the Bible, I see my own world reflected in its passages, specifically the Gospels, and a lot of the discussions and the parables that Christ goes throughout the first four books of the New Testament. But on top of that, I also see other little things about human nature reflective within the Word. One that I really like to look towards, that's sort of a little microcosm of this day and age, is Joseph and Potiphar's wife, where she made an accusation towards him, saying that he basically raped her. Well, not basically, saying that because he would not be seduced by her. He would honor his master. Because keep in mind, at the time, Joseph was a slave, but he would honor his master, and he would not sleep with her. And as such, he was actually punished for a good deed. But of course, in the eyes of God, he was blessed as time went on. And what I constantly see is the little nuances of life reflected within those passages. And I see elements of my own experiences within them. And what it has helped me to do is to basically understand not, what the real mystery is in life. And that, in my opinion, is why are we here? Because that's the interesting thing that I've always found about science, is that science can help with methodology of the who, or basically of the what, the when, and the where. But the one question that's always going to matter the most to a person is going to be why. Why are we here? What is the purpose? And it's part of the reason that I have the tattoo on my arm, and I'll go ahead and show it off again, is, and this is, my slogan of Deus Vult. What does Deus Vult mean? Well, it means God wills it. And I plan on getting another tattoo on my left arm at some point in the near future that says Deus Carito Est, which is from the Vulgate as well, that basically means God is love. And what it is there is to remind me of not just why I believe in God, but why I love God. Because those are two different things. I think that it's very possible to be like a deist and believe that there is a God, that he's separate from man, that he's walked away from man, in a sense, and left man to his own devices. But from what I believe is that he is an active God in our lives. He's a constant teacher. And it is those lessons that I have learned. And then there are just these tattoos, I want them to be about two constants. Is that, on my right arm, to remember that God has a will, that he is an active God. My right hand is my dominant hand. He is an active God. He is a God that interacts. He is a God that blesses. He is a God that protects. He is a God that considers. He is a God that is constantly moving. He is not, and this is another reason why I am a Christian as opposed to a polytheist or something like that, is my God is an active God. My God is one who is constantly in my life. My God is a God that I can talk to, that I can get on my knees and pray to. And I know that my words are heard, and though the responses to my prayers might not be what I'm expecting, because maybe my prayer is selfish. Maybe there is an element that of my life that he is saying not yet. I would ask myself, who is like him in this universe? And the answer is no one. And the other one, the one that I want to get on my left hand, is reminding myself that God is not emotionless. God is not stagnant. Love is an active thing. Love is there's this old song by a Christian rock band called DC Talk called "Love is a Verb," and my dad always, and for those who don't know, my father's a preacher. My dad always told me that song is a life lesson in a sense, because love is an active thing. Love is something that we show. We know what it is, and we know what it is not. You know. In fact, allow me to quote a little bit of scripture from Paul's epistles. 1 Corinthians 13, 4-8 says, "Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, keeps no record of wrongs, does not delight in evil, rejoices with the truth, always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres." There's that action there. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be still. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. The basic idea is that aside from having a will, there is a motivation behind that will. What is that motivation? It's love. You know, he created us for the same reasons that we create children, to have these reflections of ourselves that we desire to have in our lives, to bless our lives and to bless the lives of others. The interesting thing about this is that I try to argue that point from a logical standpoint, from, you know, why I believe from what I see here. You know, I see the Bible reflected in the day-to-day. I see it reflected in parts of history. You know, it's very rare you will find a historian that will actually deny the existence of Christ. You know, there's actually this in historical circles, there's a theory called radical Christ theory that is openly mocked by historians. I've always found that kind of interesting, that even atheist historians will tell you that Jesus of Nazareth lived and walked the earth. And on top of that, one thing that I find even more interesting about that is that what C.S. Lewis proposed many years beforehand still remains, is you're left with two options. He's either a crazy person because he was saying that he was God. Sane people don't say that. Or he really was the Son of God. And I obviously agree with the latter with Lewis. So those are sort of the logical parts of my brain, you know, and just observing the world and understanding and reading, and these are the conclusions that I came to that solidified what I had already believed. You know, I didn't necessarily go out when I was about 25 or so, when I started doing a lot of heavy reading again, to solidify my own beliefs and to try to solidify my own biases. I was actually trying to see how the other half lived and to understand the atheist perspective. Because it's interesting, because I was reading books like God Is Not Great by Christopher Hitchens, and you know, The God Delusion by Dawkins, and then I ended up reading other books like The Devil's Delusion by not Pinker, what's his name? It's an agnostic. I can't remember his name for the life of me. People will know who I'm talking about, but I read that book. David Berlinski, that's it. And then I read counters to that by John Lennox and others, and read back through older books by C.S. Lewis, and through all my reading, I came to the same conclusion that I did from an emotional level years prior. So here's the personal story. I am a broken man in a lot of ways. I sometimes feel like the only thing that holds me together sometimes is my will. And I have a desire to live and to continue and to talk about God and to try to be a positive influence in people's lives. And I feel like until that's done, I can't die, in a sense. You know, I don't want to die. I want to live and do this. I want to do this work. And I don't want that work to be cut short. But it might be someday. And if God calls me home someday, I will go. Of course. Well, not that I'll have a choice. But but anyway, it wasn't always like that for me. When I was 21 years old, I got a Dear John call from my then wife. And 6 months later, I was divorced. and it was a bad divorce. She accused me of some things that I had never done, abusive things, which I had never done. There was nothing to even suggest that I would even do such a thing. When I told people who have known me my entire life about these accusations, they were shocked, and those accusations and the way that the divorce happened split my family, my extended family, down the middle of who do you support, her or him. And it was a painful time. There were some relationships during that point in time that, have been severed and will never, come back. Friendships I lost because of it, because of the things that she lied about. And it hurt because I found myself with 2 friends in the world, one friendship I would have to mend because of things that I did, and broke and starving, literally starving, because she was in the military and she was supposed to be sending money home to pay the bills for our house and to eat. And she didn't. She just stopped. I had a cat, one of our 2 cats that were basically like our kids, who I didn't have money to treat him, and he died of liver failure in my arms. I had a dog who caught mange. I couldn't afford to treat him because she couldn't afford to feed him at a point. I had to give him away, and he was about to die. I was lucky to find a shelter that would take him in, and I couldn't do anything because she wouldn't help, because she was so up her own woohoo that everything around me was dying. And it was at this point that I went into my garage. I took down my punching bag that I had at the time, and I put a belt in it, in the area that held the chain, and I hung myself. I tried to kill myself. And something broke. I don't remember if it was the belt or if it was what was holding me into the ceiling, but it broke, and I slumped to the floor unconscious. And when I woke up, I was alive. I didn't know why. Still to this day, don't know why. Not asking either why I'm still alive, but I'm still alive. And after that, time moved forward, and there were small blessings that I got that helped me be who I am today. Little things. Going and getting counseling for all of the trauma that I faced. Free of charge, given to me by my church, was a blessing. My mom, was patient with me while I was basically trying to rebuild my life and trying to learn new trades and things like that, even though there were no jobs in the town I lived in. Keep in mind, this is during the economic crash back 08, 09, 010, or 2010, My youngest sister, helped me recover by just being there for me. And, of course, 2 of my closest friends as well. Then my closest friend, he, one day, I was at a very low point, and I talked to him about it. He said, "Why don't you come stay with me for a week or so, and we're going to try to get you a job." And it was crazy because we tried to find me a job. I was applying at places over and over and over again for the course of a week, 2 weeks, something like that. It was a decent length of time. And the very last place I applied to was a hotel. I'd never worked in a hotel. I hadn't held a steady job in 3 years, but I was writing for Blistered Thumbs at the time. But what ends up happening is I talk to the manager. I make a good impression. He likes me. He's like, "Why don't you come in for an interview and fill this out?" He's like, "The interview's just a formality. I like you. You're in. Can you stay up all night?" "Absolutely, sir." Got a job. Very last place I applied. I almost didn't make it to the first day on the job. Funnily enough. My mom, love my mom. I've always thought that she kind of has very bad empty nest syndrome. She loves having me around. I don't know why. I'm ridiculously quiet when I'm at home. And if I'm talking, I'm making fun of my mom. And we're making fun of each other because we just kind of roast one another. But what I did was she got very angry with me on that last day. I didn't have a way to get to the job the next day. And I convinced my friend to meet me halfway between his house and where I was living at the time so I could make my first week of work. And he caved, and I managed to get there and made it at the buzzer. He had come up with a different plan for me to get there. It wasn't going to work out. There was no way for it to work out. And but I got there. And there have been just little things that have happened where it seemed like everything was lost. And then not only was everything not lost, everything was about to be better than it was before. Some might say that that's circumstance. Some people might say that that is, luck, that I'm just lucky. And okay, if you think I'm lucky, I'd like to tell you the whole story of my life, and I want you to rethink that proposition. I'm not lucky. I'm not at all. In my experience, there is no such thing as luck. But I'm also not going to say it's divine providence. It's not like God came down from heaven and said, yeah, I did that. Maybe, I don't know what it was. I can tell you what I believe, though. I believe in this. Deus Vult. God has a will. He has a purpose for all of us. And he is an active God. He is not a God of the gaps. He is not a God who sits back. He is a God who loves all of us. And if you let him into your life, he will help guide you. He will help you grow. He will help you prosper. All you have to do is listen. So to the person who emailed me that, hopefully that answers your question, both on the logical levels, but also on the spiritual part of my life as well. And thank you for your email. Hope you guys all enjoyed watching. My name is Micah Curtis. I'll see you next time. Deus Vult.